Welcome to this week's episode of the Sports Curious podcast presented by Last Night's Game. I'm your host, Amy Butch on Siegfried, and I am joined today by my favorite cheerleader, my brother, Scott. Scott, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for the intro. Honored to be here once again. And you're my favorite cheerleader as well.
Well,
Since
you
you
know,
actually cheerlead.
I did actually cheerlead. We should probably, for the sake of this podcast, find the photo of me in my cheerleading uniform and you in your basketball uniform, and our childhood photo of from high school.
It's a legendary photo. Note to the
Pretty
editor, insert that here somewhere.
Note to the editor. So, we were talking before we came on about how people say not nice things on TikTok and Instagram. And did
Social
I send you
media.
the screen? Right, in general. Did I send you the screenshot of someone who said, whoever edited this video should be fired?
You did. You did.
And
And then you fired yourself, from what I've
yeah,
been
I said,
told.
well, I guess I must need to find a new job. Thanks, a-hole.
You fired yourself
Who
and you have to
cares?
rehire yourself.
I guess he doesn't want my video help.
That's fine. Let
It's okay.
trolls be trolls.
It's amazing what people get fired up about on social. We had people get all up in arms about the Taylor Swift video that should or could, how Travis Kelce could make it to South America on a bye week. And you know what I look at that? Hey, first of all, I'm wearing my from our store, my football era sweatshirt, which is ridiculously soft, as you know, because you have one too. But it's like, people, let's calm down. This is fun. The news is terrible. Life is challenging. Let's just have some fun. We love
Exactly.
the
In the
idea of Travis.
words of Taylor, just calm down.
That's exactly it. So, anywho,
And
where
we
this is,
put
I
in the
will.
research. We did put in the research to show that Travis could easily make it to Argentina on his bye week,
Yeah,
and we'll
I mean, who
probably
would?
beat a at one point, so we'll be vindicated.
Who wouldn't want to go to Argentina on their bye week? I would.
If I had a bye week, I would go.
Yeah, and a
That's for
plane
sure. And a plane, yeah.
and access to a plane. That would be nice.
Very
So,
nice.
anyways, we will digress. Let's talk this podcast. We're talking about the life and behind the scenes of being an NFL cheerleader. Now, this has been one of our most sought out blog posts. It's still one of the most popular posts on our website, lastnightsgame.com. And so we really wanted to bring this to life with a podcast episode where we kind of talk through this, because it's really a fascinating, and there's sad angles, there's interesting angles. Like, it's just so great to see what some of these ladies have gone on to do. The one I think about off the top of my head is Rami Bean from Denver Broncos. She was a cheerleader, and now I believe she's doing some in studio. She's doing a lot of broadcasting type stuff around sports, around football, the NFL, and it's cool to see. We followed her back when she was a cheerleader on social, just because she always had fun posts. Remember, she dressed like a dinosaur for
I
Halloween.
think
Like, everyone else was dressed sexy, and she dressed like a dinosaur.
she did. I think that's what caught her eye. She jumped in the dinosaur outfit and was able to perform just like everybody else.
Yeah, and so it's cool to follow and just see the path that these women take. So, I guess I'm curious. Let's start off with, not every team has cheerleaders. So that was something, as we did our research for this, that I kind of forget about. So talk to me about the teams that don't have cheerleaders.
Yeah, I mean, when you think football, you think cheerleaders, right? So without any research, people probably think that every team's got a squad and they're on the field cheering. But currently, there's actually 7 teams that do not have cheerleading squads, so it's kind of interesting. The Buffalo Bills, Cleveland Browns, Chicago Bears, Green Bay Packers, LA Chargers, New York Giants, which is the only team to actually never have a cheerleading squad in their history, and of course, not last but not least, the Pittsburgh Steelers. So there's
Interesting.
quite a few franchises.
And from kind of what I've seen, most of them went away because of lawsuits. Is that correct?
I think there's various factors that led to the cheerleading squads being disbanded, probably lawsuits, things of that nature. But it was most of them were a long time ago, so there's not clear records like we have today.
Got it. Makes sense.
And I will say a lot of those are also very cold weather teams, so maybe
It's
it's
true.
probably tough to cheer in Buffalo in January when it's -10 with a wind chill. So that might have
Yeah,
something to do with it as well.
it's hard to cheer in a snowsuit and a Snuggie.
Exactly. So I think that might have just been for basic human necessity to not have a team, a cheerleading squad.
One of our interns, Jacob, shout out to Jacob. He goes to school in Syracuse, and we were talking yesterday, and he's like, "Yeah, it's been nice here. It's 35 degrees." And I'm like, "That's not nice. That's cold. That's literally freezing almost."
For Jacob and the Syracuse Orange, it is not cold.
This is
But luckily, all of their sports are pretty much inside, so they do have that going for them.
it's as desert people, that just is Buffalo, Syracuse, you guys all blow my mind that you can hang in there. So kudos to you. Hopefully this is keeping you warm by a fireplace somewhere with a nice hot toddy.
Yes.
Or a hot toddy while you drive. I mean, just as long as it doesn't have alcohol in it.
Oh, well,
Defeats the purpose,
that's a whole
doesn't
different topic.
it? Now, what's fascinating, we go back to those teams that never had cheerleaders. We do have a couple of teams who've kind of really pushed the envelope, which the Rams broke down barriers in 2019, and they had the first two male cheerleaders at the Super Bowl. The Panthers, their cheerleading squad is called the Top Cats, and they made history by hiring Justine Lindsay, the NFL's first openly trans cheerleader in 2022. You're seeing teams bring on male cheerleaders, they're changing the names. The Seahawks, they used to have they were the Seagals, and they changed the Seahawk
Now,
dancers. Yeah. So
and now they're the Seahawk dancers. So there's been a lot of equality, gender equality taking place, just expanding who's on the squad, which brings new eyes, gives people opportunity to achieve their dreams.
absolutely. Well, some of our we've had what I think it's four presidents that have been that were male cheerleaders in college. So it's clearly a great leadership role. And you have to be athletic, you have to be skilled, you have to be talented, you have to be disciplined, you have to have leadership. So when it comes down to it, what a great way to continue to highlight the work that these guys are doing and these great gals are doing too.
Absolutely. And not everyone's a 300-pound offensive lineman. So there's definitely different avenues for people to become professional in their dream as a cheerleader.
If you were a 300-pound offensive lineman slash cheerleader, you would definitely be a base. You would not be a flyer.
That's unless you have a 500-pound guy catching you. So I don't think it's a problem at
This is
all.
true. Perspective.
Yes.
So cheerleaders, they they make the same amount of money as your neighborhood community pool lifeguard when it comes down to it. It's that's a pretty fascinating stat to me. I know that they are independent contractors, so therefore they obviously get paid hourly. They roughly make about 150 bucks a game and 50 to $75 an appearance. But it's fascinating to me that they don't make as much money as the water boy.
I mean, you look at the league makes billions of dollars each year. All these franchises are worth billions of dollars. So you would just assume that, the cheerleaders down there every Sunday on the sidelines are making a ton of money as well, but that's absolutely not the case. It's kind of shocking, to say the
It
least.
really It really is, because when you think about it, the game itself is what? 2.5, 3 hours, but they're there ahead of time. They're staying after likely. They're not leaving in the 4th quarter, trying to beat traffic. So you're looking at
Mhm.
really their commitment on a game day is pretty much the entire day. So if you had a regular job, I mean, if you I've seen that there's quite a few that are teachers and things like that, or you work at a gym, but you really have to have a flexible position, because if you play Monday night or Thursday night, you then have lost your whole Monday, your whole Thursday. And granted, it's a 17-week season.
It is now, yes.
Yeah, 17-week season, and you don't go to the playoffs, and it's only 17 weeks you have to navigate. But still, it's it's not conducive to a regular job. I can't go work at Chipotle and have my regular shifts and then have to try to figure that all out.
No, exactly. And especially this year, these cheerleaders are going to be missing Black Friday for the Dolphins and Jets,
Oh, that's
and
right.
they're only making $12 an hour. So, I mean, that's a major commitment in time as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you're right, you're missing holidays, you're missing Thanksgiving,
Mhm.
because those the t if you get to play on those days, it's a huge, huge perk for your team, right? That's such an honor. And it's I will say this because I hear it from people and I know someone out there is thinking it, well, they're just here to meet an NFL player to get married. I've done a little bit of research and that's not a trend. That's really not something that happens. So if you're thinking this is their life goal that they're coming in here for, you're probably wrong.
Yeah, most teams have stipulations in the contract that they can't even, like fraternize with the players or talk to them at all. So, if that is their goal, there's other opportunities in life to meet NFL players, but being a cheerleader is probably not one.
Probably not your best bet. Well, it's just
No.
fascinating to me. And these they work 34 hours a week with practices, appearances, games, etc. A lot of teams have specific look that these ladies have to keep up, right? Or these gentlemen actually too, right? But it's maybe it's long hair, maybe it's blonde hair. There were a lot of those that if you do some research, they require blonde hair, they require long blonde hair, they require eyelash extensions, spray tans, makeup, etc., etc. In a lot of cases, they're not reimbursed for those purchases. And I'm thinking these ladies are making less an hour than a 14-year-old babysitter would, and then they're now having to pay on top of this to get your hair dyed. If you're a brunette like me and you have to be blonde, that's a lot of work and it's very, very expensive.
I'm not really in tune with that whole process, but it does sound like it would
From
be
your
time
spray
consuming and very,
tans, I
very
mean,
expensive. Yeah.
yeah, those spray tans you get are very expensive, they add up, don't they?
From my experience, yes, it does.
There's one thing that I think is really interesting. Obviously, they have those physical requirements, but some of them also have weight programs. They have to have all these things. There, back in the day, there's actually a documentary that came out that talked about the jiggle test that coaches would conduct. That if the girls got a little too, the cheerleaders, I stopped saying girls, if the cheerleaders got too heavy or gained too much weight during the season, they would fail the jiggle test and they would be benched.
I mean,
I mean,
that's tough, especially you're cheerleading a Thanksgiving game or game during the holidays. Everyone's going to indulge a little bit.
right,
So
or if you're working a regular job and this cheerleading job and you have practice and appearances, when are you gonna go to the gym? You need to find a job that's probably at a gym because otherwise how else do you fit it all in?
you probably don't sleep very much, which is also not
No,
great.
which also doesn't help
For,
the jiggle test because,
it
yeah,
does not. No. No, I think
it's just it's
was that in the was documentary. I think it was called "The Woman's Work," the NFL
mhm.
cheerleader, where they really did a deep dive into the dark side of the cheerleading life as in the NFL.
Yeah,
I
I
think it
guess
opened a lot of eyes.
absolutely. Let's talk before I do want to wrap on some good stuff, but let's talk a little bit about that dark side. I mean, there have been significant lawsuits against teams because different teams have violated their privacy by recording them while they're changing. I mean, some of these things are just disgusting. And the Cowboys had an incident with that. The Washington football team, that was just one of the many allegations against Dan Snyder, their former owner, where they filmed the ladies when they were getting ready for a swimsuit calendar photo shoot. I mean, just disgusting and just disrespectful, I guess, is on top of it being gross, it's just disrespectful. These people are here to do a job.
Yeah, and you think that you hold these teams and employees of these teams to a certain standard and accountability of just being professional.
Right.
Like we said, the Cowboys, they had a confidential settlement of 2.4 million after four members of the cheerleading squad clearly saw one of the senior executives on the team just filming them and watching them change in the locker room, which is just beyond belief that someone would go to that level
It's
of
just gross.
creepiness.
Yeah, it's a level of creepiness. It's just gross. Like, who do you think you are that you have the right to do that? But, hopefully with all of those that I would hope to say and that working conditions continue to improve as more information comes out and as these teams adapt and modify and continue to grow, and these women are empowered to do these great things. I mean, they're big members of the community. They are a piece of the team that goes out in the community. When big events happen, you're requesting and you're applying to have a cheerleader show up at your grand opening, at your school function, whatever that might be. They're a facet and extension of the team. They're so loved, and so it's really, it's they're an important piece of the puzzle.
They absolutely are. And to make money, they have to go to all these appearances, and, like you said, community events just to get paid to make a living.
Yeah. Now I want to go back to the Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders. Like, they're obviously the primo, right? America's team, as you will. The cheerleaders are obviously the primo of the crop. Now I know that these women have quite a process, right? They have to go through multiple auditions. They have to do a written test, which is interesting. Now, a couple years ago, ESPN gave some players this written test that the potential candidates for cowboy cheerleaders, and a lot of them failed, which I thought was really interesting.
That's not too shocking from my
Yeah.
perspective.
Well, some of them might be. I'm going to ask you a couple of these questions that I found,
Oh no,
and I won't make you. There is one about singing the national anthem. I won't make you do that, just for our listeners' ears.
I
But
am
some of
American.
these questions.
I'll think national.
Okay, how about I narrow it down to like four? Does that
Okay,
sound good?
let's do it.
Okay. I won't ask you the one about if Dax Prescott asked you out on a date. What would you say? I won't ask you that one either.
I would. I
Do
would.
you know?
I would
Do
bet
you know
$20.
if there is an? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay. If you were a Dallas Cowboys cheerleader, you could have these questions on a quiz as you apply to be a cheerleader. Do you know if there's an S on Dallas Cowboys and Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders?
In S,
The letter S.
I'm going to say there is not. Final answer.
Wrong. Dallas
Um,
Cowboys cheerleaders and Dallas Cowboys, not Dallas Cowboy, which I think you knew that, but maybe you're throwing me off here. Can you tell us the political party of our president?
Current president,
Yes.
Democrat. Final answer.
Final answer. Um,
Is that right?
yes.
Okay.
If you hear a broadcaster say an audible has been called, what would that mean?
I would reference our play calling podcast that we did previously, and I would say that an audible means the original play that was called is being changed to a different play,
Excellent. Well done.
likely with a hand signal or a verbal gesture.
That was a can of corn for you. Okay. Ooh, I'm struggling on what the last one is because there's so many good ones. Who is the NFL's all-time leading rusher? I don't know the answer to this, by the way, so whatever you come up with will work.
I would like to say Emmett Smith, former
Hmm,
Cowboy.
that would make sense, right? If it was a Cowboys question.
See if our
Oh,
producer can fact check that.
okay, I'm going to ask you one more
Okay.
because a lot of these are very political, which is very interesting. Like, how do you feel about this quiz was written when Hillary Clinton was running? How do you feel about Hillary Clinton? How do you feel about the wall on our southern border? What are the branches of the government? It's really fascinating how sort of polarizing these will be. And I guess that's probably the point, right?
I'll plead fifth on those.
Um, Here's one I would definitely not have known about. The FBI director. Hmm.
Who was the current
Okay.
FBI director?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I got last
Very,
one for you.
very relevant to cheerleading.
Yes, exactly right. Name a couple of songs that might represent our country well.
The Star Spangled Banner.
Yeah.
Um, Shake It Off by Taylor Swift. Um, Higher by Creed.
Yeah. One more.
One more.
Beer for my horses.
Fireball by Pitbull. And
Pitbull
that's what makes us
is
the nation of the country.
that was an excellent blend of
Thank
all walks of life. Well done, sir. Well done. Before
you.
we
Am I
wrap up,
smart enough
is
to
there
be a Cowboys cheerleader now or not?
what was that?
Am I smart enough to be a Cowboys cheerleader? You think?
I'm thinking so.
Okay.
I'm thinking besides
Darn it.
you but probably didn't know who the FBI director was. I think you're in.
J. Edgar Hoover.
Those white boots will look real good on you.
Thank you.
They could also double as a Halloween costume. You could also go be a WWE wrestler with them on after that.
Possibilities are endless now.
I mean, white boots could save the world. As we wrap up, is there anything that you would like to share with us before we close up?
I hope you gain a new perspective and respect for the cheerleaders on the sidelines every Sunday, Thursday, Sunday, Monday, with all the hard work they put in with little pay.
Yeah, that's a great answer, and you took the words right out of my mouth. So, thank you for sharing your wisdom. We hope that those of you who are listening, once again, have that extra level of respect. And when you watch the game, watch for the cheerleaders. See them, get excited, go team, and know that they were probably really smart because they had to take a football quiz.
We did.
Hmm. Well, thanks for joining us. We'll see you here next week for another episode of the Sports Curious Podcast.
Go team, go.